Are you a chiropractor with a struggling practice, having a hard time finding and keeping patients? Is your staff falling short of expectations? I'm Dr. Scott Sawyer, and DC Trainings has the answers that you need. So tune in now and find out how. Hello and welcome to DC Trainings, everybody. I'm glad to be with you. I'm Dr. Scott Sawyer. It's a great day. Actually, so many good things are happening that I actually was tongue-tied starting our webinar today. So thank you for joining. I'll slow down a bit, but I was really excited because this is a big topic today. And let me frame this for you to kind of structure this in your practice. And I know I see some of us on the call that are more seasoned chiropractors. We've been in practice for a long time. And then some of you are relatively new in practice. But I think we can all agree that when a patient comes in and starts care with you, that there's a real distinct turning point in their care where they feel better, right? They may have come in on wellness. They may have come in with symptoms. Most patients come in with some kind of health challenge. That's sort of how our media and our healthcare system has trained people, is to not be overly proactive ahead of time. But when they come in, generally there's some health challenge that they're having, and we take care of them for that. And the beautiful part of chiropractic care is that when we use chiropractic care to remove nervous system interference, to correct the subluxations, to allow the innate intelligence of the body to heal itself without interference from subluxations, then the body does just that. It heals itself, and our patients feel better, or they experience some improvement in terms of their health. Okay, so that's kind of a given with chiropractic care. Now, regardless of how they came in with symptoms, and I'm just going to use the example of symptoms. They came in with symptoms, and then we take care of them, and those symptoms improve or fade away or are gone. That's the point when patients many times will stop coming. Now, in my opinion, and I think all of us can agree, the real joy or the real experience of chiropractic care comes with long-term chiropractic care, where you become accustomed to this elevated level of health. You're feeling good, you're enjoying good health, you're taking care of yourself, and then you maintain that threshold. That's where the real power in chiropractic comes in. Sorry, I'm moving my chair around. Comes in terms of the long term. So we want our patients to get to that threshold and be able to enjoy ongoing maintenance care or supportive care, however you want to frame that. But my point is this: what happens when the patient goes from having their symptoms gone to wellness care? Many of us run into the problem where the patients leave. They say, I'm feeling better. That's great, doc. I'll call you. And sorry, I've got some glare on my face. I can see it on the screen, but I'm not sure where it's coming from. But anyways, I'll call you when my symptoms come back. I'll call you when I need you. You took good care of me. I'm happy. I'm going to come back when I need it. So how do you recapture the momentum that you had when you started the patient's care, and then continue that so that they enjoy that real long-term benefit of chiropractic care, which is what I was just framing? How do we do that? Well, that's what we're going to cover today. Now, the first thing I want to say, and we'll get into this a little more in our PowerPoint, but the first thing I want to say is don't wait until the pain's gone to bring it up for the first time. Because if you do that, they have the whole experience of their pain fading away, their symptoms fading away, to not even think about what's going to happen next. They'll just have it framed in their head. When I feel good, I'm done. When I feel great, I've had good results, I'm done. And they'll have that cemented into their mind for too long for you to change the course of that momentum, right? So let's bring it up in the beginning. And this is the point I want to make. I'm hoping that all of you are using the report of findings process that I've taught you, or the report of findings sequence, to explain to your patients not only what they need initially in their corrective care, but what they'll need beyond that to maintain that new health threshold. So I hope that you're all using that. If you're not, let me know, and I'll help you through that process, or go to dctrainings.com and use all of our valuable tools there to implement that system into your report of findings. Actually, it's your new patient and report of findings process, so that you can build that idea or that concept in the very beginning Actually, it was from one of BJ Palmer's great books. It's in one of his, I think it's in The Bigness of the Fellow Within, one of my favorite green books. But he talks about how retention starts in the beginning. Okay, we want to plant that seed in the beginning, or maybe not even plant the seed, but explain that part of the care right in the beginning so that it's not a surprise when we come up later. So I think that's a good way to frame our topic today. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into our screen here, or share my screen so you can see this, because in this aspect, if we can, there we go, I just had to move something around there. If we can explain that in the beginning, then when we come to this point with what you're seeing on the screen, it's not a surprise, and it doesn't come out of nowhere. It's something that you've been building up to, and it becomes so easy. I had 3 of these yesterday, just yesterday, one day, 3 of them, and all of them were so fun and so easy and so expected by the patient that they easily transitioned into their ongoing maintenance care or wellness care or supportive care, whatever you frame, or whatever term you want to use. I use supportive care because we're supporting the changes that we set out to achieve in the beginning. So we're going to call this corrective care completion. This is the transition that happens in that care plan. It's not the end of the care plan and starting a new one. It's the transition. Okay. Now I want to just point out real quick, we are already on week 7 of module 5. So module 5 being lifetime care, week 7 being corrective care completion. We have week 8 coming. So that's coming up next week. And then the following week was what I think we have a bonus week, but I'm not sure, but that's okay. The following week is when we'll dive right into module 6. Actually, it is the following week. Module 6 is goals and marketing. And that's actually my favorite module of all 6. I love the setting goals aspect of that one. So I'll look forward to kicking that off. We're not going to have a live seminar this time for module 6. We're actually just going to go right into module 6 with our weekly webinars. But that'll be starting on November 4th. So it's right around the corner. We've got today for this week 7. We've got next week for week 8. And then the week after that, we'll go right into our module 6 with goals and marketing. As a reminder, and as a wow, I'm happy to announce this. We'll see it on the website in a minute. But in January, we're going to have our next live seminar. So put it on your calendar, make plans to come to the seminar, join in with the rest of the chiropractors there and the CAs and everybody. We're going to have a big party together. We're going to have a great day, and that'll be on team development. So that'll be coming up in January. That's our next live seminar. And for module 6, we'll start that virtual with these webinars. Okay, so just wanted to make that announcement for you. But let's talk about how this process works so that, and actually before I do, I just want to reiterate one thing because a couple of you jumped on late. So I'm just going to say this, and then that'll kick us right into the section. How many of us have patients that when it comes to the end of their pain, their initial care plan, they stop because their pain is gone and they say, that's okay, doc, I feel great. I'll call you when I need you, right? And how nice would it be if those patients didn't do that? If they said, hey, I'm feeling better. This is fantastic. And let's continue on the process of keeping me at this new level. So that's where we want to go with this. And that's why I feel like this is just so important. This is a big topic because many of our patients miss out on the benefits and we lose out on continuing to take care of our patients. This is also known as the leaky bucket, right? We want to plug up the holes in our leaky bucket. So it says corrective care completion transitions the patient into supportive or maintenance or wellness care. So that's the distinct point of this in the timeline. So how does this process work? Well, on the first part, day 1, the CA prepares the corrective care completion. So the corrective care completion is a form on DC trainings. You can download that straight off the website. I'm going to show it to you in a few minutes. And then fills out the top part. Then after that's filled out, it's given to the patient, and the patient then fills out the bottom part. And I'll show this to you as we go. The next step, once they've done that, is to take a single X-ray view. Now, I know that not all of us take X-rays, and that's okay. If you choose not to take X-rays, no problem. But you should have some kind of measurable, objective way of showing your patients how well they're progressing. So I have two, well, actually I have three, but two primarily that we use. And the first one is the x-ray. I want to show a patient, here's where you came in, here's where you're at now, and here's the improvements that we're seeing. Now, we don't do a full spinal x-ray. We actually just do a spot picture, so it keeps the exposure low on the retake. Plus, we have a triple phase machine, and we have it calibrated, and all of those things that come with making sure that it's safe to expose your patient to an x-ray and that the benefits outweigh the risks. So we take that single view. Now, I just had a patient who came in and she is pregnant, so we're not going to take an x-ray for her. So for her, we did a thermal scan. It's called the subluxation station. It's a thermal scan, and it measures heat differences where there's inflammation in the spine, and it's very precise. It's a very sensitive piece of technology, so we can show patients where their spine has increased inflammation related to a subluxation. So that would be number two. Now, the third way, if you don't have that technology, if you don't have x-rays or some type of a scan, that's okay. You can use exam findings to do the comparison. So if you have a patient when they first come in who has very limited range of motion based on their subluxations, or painful range of motion based on their subluxations, you should document that. Document those findings in their file, so that down the road, when we get to corrective care completion or even at the progress exam, we can redo those tests and demonstrate to the patient that there's been significant improvement objectively. And what that does is it starts to transition the patient away from gauging their progress solely on symptoms. So have some objective form of measurement that you can relate to your patient, or you can share with your patient to let them know that they're making good progress. Okay, so back to our screen, the single x-ray view or a new exam, that could be a scan or an exam, is completed. Then the DC provides an adjustment. So I go ahead and adjust the patient, and behind the scenes is when that third bullet is taking place. So I actually I have somebody in my office who takes the x-rays or does the exam or does the scan for me while I'm adjusting. Okay, so that's day one. That's it, right? Now, beyond that, we go to day two. So day two, the patient comes in, and let me just back up a little bit, because in between day one and day two, we took the time to review those findings, right? And compare them with the original exam or the original x-ray, and look at them carefully and differentiate the changes and the improvements. Or I actually just had a young kid who actually, he's not that young. I guess he's a senior in high school, I think. But he had his first x-rays, and we took the new x-ray, and it was worse. Well, that was a surprise, right? Even though his symptoms are better, but the x-ray was worse. And the reason why it was worse was really on the alignment, the postural side of it. And we found out that he's back in school now and spending a lot of time studying. So his head's forward a lot. And we also found out that he started taking guitar lessons. So he's bent over a guitar all the time. So there may be surprises like that come out, where you take it and you say, wow, I was expecting it to be better. The patient's feeling better. Their symptoms have improved a lot, but the objective findings are not showing that. And in those cases, most of the time, you're going to find that there's some extenuating circumstances that are causing this downward slope in terms of the subluxations. So you can remedy that, right? In this case, of this example I'm sharing with you, this young boy, or this high school boy, he was going to drop down to coming in once every 2 weeks for his adjustments. But when we found out that the changes weren't as optimal as I would like, and we also found out that he's taking guitar lessons, so he's spending hours and hours and hours every day in this forward hunched posture, we decided to keep his frequency a little higher with his adjustments. So he's going to continue coming in a little more frequently for a while, just so we can sort of catch up to where the results were expected to be at this point in his care plan. So you can fluctuate that too. It can change based on what you see with the progress of that milestone. Now, you'll notice that as I was explaining that, nowhere in there did I say, how are you feeling? And if you're feeling better, great. That's the basis for changing your schedule. Or if you're still hurting, that's the basis for not changing your schedule. I would recommend that you keep it more based on objective criteria. Okay, and that's the examples that I gave you is all objective criteria. Okay, so on day 2, patient comes back in. We've done our homework. We've measured the findings. We've compared the results to the first visit, and we've got a good basis for what we're going to be explaining to the patient in terms of how they're responding with chiropractic care. The patient walks in. The reception CA now takes the patient to a private room, and in the private room sets up whatever is going to be set up for the doctor to go over the results. On the screen, it says check in and set up the x-rays. So they'll pull the x-rays up for me so they're ready to go, and I can walk in and start to review them. If you're doing a scan, of course, pull the scan up. If you have objective findings, the CA would then maybe you don't need to go back with the patient then. You might just send the patient back with the file and have them put the file there so that it's ready for the doctor, right? So whatever it is, get those findings in place so that the doctor can just walk right in and begin the corrective care completion appointment. Ask the patient to lie down before their adjustment. And again, this is kind of technique sensitive. My patients lie down before their adjustment and relax and take the gravity off their spine. I just actually had a woman yesterday. I complimented her because I walked in the room and she was laying on her stomach with her head up and she was texting on her phone. But she had, it forces you to put a nice curve in your neck if you're laying on your stomach and you're playing on your phone. So I complimented her like, oh, wow, that's great posture. You should have a chiropractic table in your living room so you can watch TV and play on your phone like that at home too. And she laughed. It was kind of funny. But anyways, so ask the patient to lie down before their adjustment, leave the form there so it's ready for the doctor. Then the doctor comes in, right? So it's already set up, ready to go. You can have this going on in your normal flow. It doesn't have to be scheduled outside of your adjusting hours. So it's all ready for you. Let me just move this down. There we go. And then the doctor comes along, right? So here comes the doctor. I come in. I actually adjust the patient, go ahead and take care of them. And then after the adjustment, I go into this sort of report on the findings. Now, I just want to kind of go through this flow. I'll go through it in more detail, but I just want to share this with you first because in my office, we see a lot of patients. It's very busy. So nothing can interrupt the flow of incoming and outgoing patients. It has to be like a revolving door. I don't know how many of you, if you've ever been to a Costco, you notice there's doors in and there's doors out, and nothing can impede those doors because of the volume of people that are going in and out of that store at all times, right? So it's structured in that way to optimize the flow of patients and be able to serve more patients and to serve as many patients as we can, right? So we can help humanity live a subluxation-free life. So in terms of how your flow goes, they put the file out so it's ready to go for me. So I can just walk right in and do what I'm about to show you, which is adjust the patient, then they sit up. And the first thing is we review the condition, name, and phase. And we're going to go through this in a script in just a minute. Then, after I review the condition, the name of the condition, and the phase of subluxation degeneration that they have, then, where'd my mouse go? There it is. Then I'm going to provide self-care exercises. So in most cases, the corrective care completion transitions the patient to a lesser frequency of care. And so at that point, it's nice to give them things to do on their own so that they can continue that momentum in terms of taking care of themselves, right? So we want to give them some self-care items, and that way they can maintain that momentum and keep themselves healthy. Beyond that, we review the schedule and the flare-up protocol. So in that sense, we let them know and we review how often you're going to be coming in moving forward. What happens if you're sore or if you have a flare-up? What do we need to do? And then from there, reconfirm the Clear 100. And again, I'll show you this in a script in just a minute so you can follow the flow of it. But reconfirm the Clear 100. That was the 100% commitment that we got when the patient first started care, right? That was the, are you committed to following through with the doctor's recommendations to get the best results? Yes, I am. And on what percentage would you say that you're committed? Are you 100% committed? Are you 80%? Well, in this case, it's a little bit different because we're recapping on what was done at the report of findings by saying, just want to check in and make sure that your appointment times are comfortable for you. That's number one. Number two, your adjustments are comfortable for you. And number three, you're still committed to following through with the recommendations that we put together for you. And actually, number four, are the payments okay? Are they still comfortable for you? Okay, so we want to go through that sort of checking in with the patient. And that's how we get that clear 100 commitment moving forward. After that's done, then the patients have their adjustment. We've had this brief consultation. We escort them back to the front desk, convey the results to the reception CA, which is very simple. Emily, I just went over, well, sorry, Celeste, you can be my CA at the front desk. So Celeste, I just went over Emily's results. She's doing great, and we're going to continue with her appointments up until the next milestone. So please go over her appointments, and we'll look forward to keeping up with her progress. There's a couple ways to do this, because you might be doing this in a reception area where there's other patients sitting around, right? So then you can't really talk about specifics of the condition. Per HIPAA, we have to keep that all private. So in the example I just gave you, that's more of a discrete, confidential explanation, but letting the CA know what needs to happen. If there aren't patients listening to what you're saying, then you can very easily say, Emily's had great results. Her alignment in her cervical spine is much better. The subluxations have really improved. There's less inflammation. So we discussed all those items, and she's really excited, as am I. We're going to keep seeing her on a frequency of actually less now. So now she's going to be coming in once a week or once a month, as opposed to the frequency she had before. And then we're going to still want to take that x-ray at 12 months. So if you could just confirm her appointments for her and then schedule that x-ray, I'm looking forward to seeing the results on the next milestone. So if there aren't patients within earshot, you can obviously go into more detail, because it is fun to sort of celebrate the results with someone other than the patient, or sorry, the patient's going to have more fun celebrating their results with someone other than the doctor. If the front desk hears it, then obviously they can get excited too. So it depends on your environment for that. But I did all of those things there. Repeat the next milestone, convey the results, and that process takes about 5 minutes. Okay. Just to reemphasize, because the time frame is short, this is going to happen during your patient time. So you don't have to schedule a separate time like the report of findings. You don't have to schedule a care plan renewal, right? So a care plan renewal is a whole different story. And if you don't do this correctly, the way I've shown you, what's going to happen is you're going to end up doing a care plan renewal instead of a corrective care completion. And hopefully that makes sense to all of you who are familiar with the terms, right? This is not the time for a care plan renewal. If you're doing a care plan renewal at this point, then you haven't done your job in the report of findings explaining lifetime care 1 year at a time. So just check yourself in terms of what you're experiencing. Again, if you're doing it correctly, this takes literally, as I just showed you on that last screen, it takes 5 minutes and away you go. So let's go back to our screen, and now I'm going to fill in the blanks with some of the scripts that I talked about, which is right here. Let's see. Sorry, I got to go back to here. Okay. So we're going to look at this screen here. Now, this is from the website, and I do have a video in here that I'd like you to watch, because it gives the 2 parts to the corrective care completion. So you can go back and view this at your leisure. It's right on the website. It's right here. There's actually also a demonstration of the daily exercises, which I do. I literally did them this morning. I do them every single morning. This is my morning routine. It's a 16-minute video. I just found this out, but a lot of our patients actually press play on their phone, because we have it printed out, which I'll show you in a minute, but we have a printout of it with a QR code. So they can just snap a picture of the QR code on the phone. It takes them to the video, and then they just put the video on the counter and hit play, and then they just follow along with it, and away you go. And it's just, for the time, they got Sawyer, to tell you about some great exercises and really show you a way to dynamic. Doctors, if you're not doing this, some kind of warm up in the morning before you see patients, remember, you got to walk your talk as a doctor. So this will warm you up and get you ready for taking care of patients as well. Or you're welcome to share this with your patients. As I said, I do it every morning. It's a 15-minute warm up, and you hit the ground running, and it's a lot of fun. Okay, so let's go through some of these materials though, because on the corrective care completion script, I told you I would go through this with you. So here's how it works. This process marks the end of corrective care, usually at a higher frequency of visits, and transitions the patient to supportive or maintenance care, usually less frequent visits. The reception prepares the x-rays in a private room. The DC explains at the next appointment after the new x-ray is taken. So the patient walks in. The doctor will see you shortly. Please lay down to receive your adjustment first. Doctor enters the room. Can you remember the name of the condition that you have in your spine? Now, this is following the footnotes down here, but number one, we already covered that. Number two, show the single most relevant x-ray from the original series. So you don't have to go over all the x-rays that you took. Just pick one. And that one is the one you're going to retake, and it's the one you're going to explain at the corrective care completion appointment. Can you remember the name of the condition? Yes, it's called a subluxation. Can you remember what was most visibly wrong with this x-ray? Yes, my neck didn't have a curve and my head was pushed forward. Number three, if the patient cannot remember, explain the single most obvious abnormality. Now, you can go into a longer explanation of the findings if a patient asks for those. If a patient doesn't ask, or if they don't have the knowledge in the background to know the terminology and to request more information, if you explain too much, you will literally see their eyes glaze over and you'll lose them, and you'll lose the effectiveness of making that great impression to continue care with. So be careful about going with too long of an explanation when your patient doesn't have an interest in receiving that. My neck didn't have a curve and my head was pushed forward. That's right. Here's the new one. What changes can you see? My curve is coming back. Wow. That explains why I feel so much better. That's right. I'm happy with your results too. Now give acknowledgement and give that what's the word I'm looking for? You want to convey that you're happy with their results because they've followed through with their care. So I'm drawing a blank on the word I'm looking for right now, but that's okay. So I'm happy with your results too. Is there still more room for improvement? Number four, after explaining one area of improvement, ask for at least one area where more can be attained. Now, why are we asking for an area where more can be attained? The reason why we're doing that is because we want to make sure that they understand the improvements, but we also want to make sure they understand the importance of continuing the care forward, right? This isn't a time to stop. This is a time to continue. Okay, so we want to make sure that we're pointing that out in our explanation. Yes, it looks like the curve can come back even more. I'm glad you noticed that. It's very important that we continue for even better results. I'm committed, doctor. What's the next step? Now, here's the part where the patient kind of jumped in, and I didn't want to make the script too long, but right here, I'm committed, doctor. If at that point in the process, if you're not seeing that they're committed, if they're kind of wavering, or they're not really giving you that, yes, I'm in, I'm excited, let's keep going, you want to go back to what I taught you in the report of findings for the care plan objections. And those care plan objections clearly explain how to help a patient to reach a clear 100% commitment. So anything less than that, we want to work with them. Is it the cost of the care? Is it the frequency of the appointments? Is it they're just not educated to know the importance of getting the care that they need? What is it that was preventing them from giving you a clear 100% commitment to follow through for the whole care plan? We're revisiting that now. So if you don't have a strong commitment like I showed here, go back to the notes in the report of findings, which in the report of findings, that's module 3. So you can look for the details on that in that section. We can now reduce the frequency of your adjustments, and I have exercises you can do. They take just a few minutes and will keep your spine stable between visits. Number 5, provide the daily exercises, which I'll show you that in a minute. Thank you for providing these stretches. I will commit to doing them every day. I appreciate caring for you and look forward to more improvements. We also appreciate your referrals and will contact them to schedule an appointment. And we escort them back to the front desk, who confirms the new schedule, frequency of appointments, and contacts the referrals. Now, actually, I'm sorry. And I'm reading and I'm not showing you my screen. let me share my screen with you, but I want to point something out. So here we go. This is what I just read. So I apologize. You can raise your hands and let me know if I forget to share my screen. But what you won't see on this script as you're reading through this, you won't see what? Financial arrangements. And that's so key, because when we set up a full care plan, a 12-month care plan, and transition in the middle of it over to the supportive care, we don't have to revisit financial arrangements. And I shared that with you in the Module 4 series, which is that if we do the financial arrangements correctly at the report of findings, we don't have to revisit them again for a whole year, right? Another whole year. And what's great about that is that we really get to focus on their care. We're not focusing on payments. They already know what their payments are. They're comfortable with them. We've established that. We just get to focus on their results and the care that they're getting. Now, sometimes you'll have a patient at this point that asks the question, right? Now that I'm coming in less often, are my payments still going to stay the same? And the answer to that question is yes, they will, because the payments are averaged over a whole 12 months. So they stay the same for 12 months, even though the frequency of the visits was more in the beginning, and then it drops down to a lesser frequency after that. The payments are just averaged through the middle of all of that. So if that wasn't explained clearly in the beginning, or if it was explained clearly in the beginning, it won't come up again for 12 months. If it does come up again, what does that tell you? It's clear. It tells you that the patient is having a financial challenge. And if we don't solve that challenge, they'll be gone, right? So we want to make sure that we're aware of those types of questions and what the basis of those questions are. If it doesn't come up at all, then it was clearly explained and they're comfortable with the payments. If it does come up midstream, we want to address that. And that was actually done in Module 4 in the care plan objection section, or Module 3 in the care plan objection section, or in Module 4, which is financial arrangements, in the financial objections section. So we talked about how to approach that and how to work with your patients so they continue to come in. So that's what's not on this script, because we already covered it. And if you do it right and you do it correctly, it will rarely come up at this point in the care plan, which is pretty exciting. Okay, so here's the blank section there. On here, you can download this form from dctrainings.com, which I do want to show you, because on here we have the resources page. And in the resources page, we have custom forms. So in here, we have, where is it? We have many of these forms. I'm going to show you, here we go, the care plan worksheet. So when you're setting up the care plan worksheet at the report of findings, I guess I won't download it now, but because you know what it looks like the care plan. So you can download these forms here, and you can actually put your own header on that form. So it literally has your practice information, and you can just print it right out. So those are all available for you on the website. You can check those out. But let's look at it here. Okay, so there's the blank form you can print off the website. Then here's one that's filled out. So that's the sample. And what I wanted to point out here is going back to the process. So this is filled out by the CA when before the patient arrives. That's here. And it has the patient's name, obviously. It has their primary concerns, and it has all the effects. Now, we're going to get into this in the care plan renewal section next week as well, because this form is a really important form for a couple of reasons. One is it reminds the patient of the original issues they were having when they first came in, even if they're long gone. And then secondly, it gives them a chance to refer patients to you right here. So how many of you would like more referrals? Right? This happens in my practice on a daily basis, where we have patients who are reaching their corrective care completion or their care plan renewal, and we're giving them an opportunity to write down 2 names of people they would like to refer in, and they fill those in, and we immediately follow up. In fact, this week at our team meeting, my CA reported that we had 3 new patients last week alone from this form that actually came in. So of all of our new patients last week, 3 of them were from this form, were direct referrals from other patients. So it's really a great way to capture more referrals, to spread the word, and off we go. Okay. So that's the corrective care completion. Here's the daily exercises. Now I want to show you this just quickly, because we do offer this form in Spanish. So for many of you, if you have patients who speak Spanish, you can print the form right off the website, and you can give it to your Spanish patients. That's there. Or you can use the English version. Now, we updated the English version. I think it's both actually, but it's definitely the English version. They can snap a picture of this with their phone. It'll take them right to the website and the video, and they can just hit play and follow along with it. Some of these stretches are a little more advanced, I know, like this one. But when I first started doing this, I had just come out of chiropractic college. I could not touch my toes. I was stiff as a board from sitting for all those years in class. Now I'm much more flexible, but it's because I do it every day. I mean, I don't miss. It's part of my morning routine. And you'll see for yourself and or your patients, if you're consistent with stretching and staying flexible, then you're going to reach the level where you can do all of these stretches quite comfortably. Now, of course, in the long term, for taking care of patients, you want to be flexible and loose so that you don't end up with back problems. How ironic, right? A chiropractor with back problems, which unfortunately is very common. We want to prevent that by keeping our bodies in good shape so we can keep taking care of patients and bending over, adjusting tables and all of that. So that's, anyway, so those are there for you. You can print those out from the website, or you can also, you can print the Spanish one as well. So those are all there for you. And we just covered all these materials here, right here. So with that, let's, I'm gonna finish up a little bit early today because I actually have a really fun website development call I'll be doing with our web team on the DC Trainings website. But I want to remind everyone two things. One, we're, as I said, we're going to be having a live seminar in January. And actually, I have the date. I'll share with you. It is January 13th is the date of our live seminar. So mark your calendars. You'll be getting stuff from us in the mail. Actually, quick show of hands. How many of you have been getting our newsletter, our email newsletter? It goes out each week. We have different topics. You can raise your hand and just let me know. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yes, I appreciate that. I just wanted to check in because I've been putting a lot of time into getting the content together and getting that out to you. So if you're not getting our email each week, please let us know. We want to make sure that you get it, but all you do is just look in your inbox. Maybe it's in your junk folder, but it should be coming into your inbox. And if you're not getting it, let us know. Thank you, Celeste, for that hand up, and others too. So anyway, so that's our newsletter that goes out every week, and that it will be in that newsletter as far as the live seminar and the beginning of module 6 in the next couple of weeks. I think this is a good time to check in and say hello to actually Celeste, if you don't mind. I'll open up your line and say hello to you first. Celeste is a powerhouse CA who's been a CA for quite a long time. So are you there?
Good morning. Yes, sir. I am here.
Good morning. Welcome. How long have you been a CA, Celeste?
It was 7 years last March.
Oh, so
So I'm coming up on my 8th year.
You are. Congratulations. That's great.
Thank you. It's really gone by so quickly.
Well, time flies when you're having fun, right?
It really does, truly.
Do you have any questions I can answer?
No, it really helped reiterate a lot of the things that we practice. And it's wonderful because our new CA, Emily, is getting to hear all this as well. And I really like the exercises. I actually have your exercises on my fridge so that if I can walk by and scan them anytime I want to.
Well, thank you. Yes, they're good. It's a good way to start the day.
Absolutely.
As far as because I want to compliment you, because one of the things I got a message from your doctor that he was traveling, and thanks to you and to Emily, your practice is running smoothly so that even when he's gone, things go well and your patients are still being cared for. So I think you've done a great job of setting up a practice where patients can have reliable, consistent chiropractic care. To add to that, one of the things that I appreciate about you and Emily is just your consistency on these webinars. I mean, you've been a CA for going on almost 8 years. You're still learning, you're still grabbing new information, you're still applying yourself and looking for ways to better serve patients. So it really shows.
Thank you, doctor. I really, really appreciate that. And I do appreciate your webinars as well.
Great. Well, thank you very much. I'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon.
Let me say hello to Dr. Glynn, because part of when I was starting out, I have a question for you. So, Dr. Matt, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. How's it going, Dr. Sawyer?
It's going good. Yeah, welcome. My question for you is around the because you're moving into a practice and taking over a practice. So I wondered if you had any questions about incorporating the corrective care completion into the existing patients.
Um, yeah, I could probably talk on that all day long. Right now, it's just really trying to maintain kind of what the previous doctor had set up. And as I get all of my other things together, it's going to be much easier to start to implement it with the new patients because I have a lot of older patients who they're I would say, stuck in their ways and they're
Hmm.
used to the care being done a certain way. So I haven't been able to implement very much of that, but we're putting me and the CA are working to start putting some systems in place. So as all the new patients come in, we have a good system in the office to where we can implement them. And then as we get our systems down, we'll start having the older patients who've been there for a while adopt the new form of care.
That's perfect, and that's exactly what I wanted to touch on. Definitely for the new patients coming in, they'll not experience anything else. They'll just experience what you're doing as far as the care plans and the corrective care completion, and they won't know any different. But for the patients who have experienced differences, and for all of you on the call, I mean, you have some of you are just learning this and trying to implement it. So if you have patients that you've taken care of in a different way, great, that's fine. But we do want to help them move into this sort of model because it's going to promote more lifetime chiropractic care. So the way to do that, the way to approach that is to let's use an example. Let's say there's a patient who's in the middle of their corrective care, right? They came in, they had symptoms, you're adjusting them, they're coming in, I don't know, 3 times a week. And you want to, and they're going to have an end coming up, right? Maybe they have 6 more appointments and then they're quote done with whatever was recommended for them at the beginning. So start now in terms of your daily visits. Your daily visits mean, or the ongoing adjustments, as we call it in DC trainings, start now by planting the seed and saying, hey, I'm really seeing good progress here. In fact, I want to schedule a new exam for you in 3 weeks, and I want to measure your progress. We're going to talk about appointments beyond that at that point, and you'll need to continue coming in. But for right now, there's some real specific tests that I want to remeasure in 3 weeks to see how you're doing. That's a real easy way to start getting away from a symptom-based approach or into a more objective approach. And you're letting them know, I've got this milestone coming up. Another approach would be to say, there's some findings that we saw on your initial exam that I want to follow up on down the road. And so I'm going to recommend that we plan on taking an x-ray or doing a new exam 12 months from when you started. Now, I know that's way out there. I'm glad you're feeling good now. We're going to have specific checkpoints along the way, but I just want to start talking about it now because I know you're happy with your progress. I'm happy with your progress, but I don't want to lose sight of where you were when you came in, when we were concerned about some of the more serious aspects of your condition. I'm choosing my words carefully there, and I'm kind of slowing down because I want you to really get what I'm saying, and I want you to be able to emphasize that for your patients. You might even want to come back and listen to the recorded version of this webinar to be able to write that out. So we're talking about the future. We're relating it to the past. As Sid Williams said, we're looking back to see ahead. And we're emphasizing that big picture commitment. Now that's important because from there, you're going to see what the response of the patient is, right? If you're saying, you know, we're going to go ahead and schedule another exam in 3 weeks to make sure that the progress is going well. But big picture wise, I want to circle back after 12 months and take another x-ray. And if the patient's like, well, this is the first time I've heard of that. Well, let me explain why, right? And then you have to do kind of almost a mini report of findings again. And this is, for Dr. Matt, this is where you're going to want to take those patients that have different care plans set up, and you do like a mini report of findings. You know, I'm just going to remind you of a couple of things from when you came in. I don't know if the other doctor went over this in as much detail, but I do have concerns about those original findings, whether it was x-ray exam. And I want to make sure that we're keeping those stabilized and keeping your progress where I feel would be the best. So I'm looking ahead and I'm looking out for your best interest. And then you can continue then moving through. So it gives you a lot of focus around each one of the ongoing visits that you have with your patients, right? If you know you don't want them to just walk out when their pain's gone, you're going to be much more attentive to what's happening with each one of those appointments along the way. So just to recap that, and then we'll kind of wrap up there. And of course, if you have any questions, raise your hand. We've got a couple minutes. I'm happy to go into more detail if you need it. But you're starting to plant the seed from a big picture perspective. You've been coming in initially 3 times a week, and of course, I'm paraphrasing here, 3 times a week. And we're going to be changing that, which is great because your progress is going well, but that doesn't mean we're done. So there's things we're going to need to accomplish after that to continue your progress. And I'm just letting you know now, and here's sort of the milestones of how we want to measure that out. So that's how that works. Now I'll go back to the reported findings and even the care plan renewal, to something that you always want to point out. If you're going to set up your patients' care plans, lifetime care 1 year at a time, as a sort of a tagline in DC trainings, then you want to be real comfortable saying, based on these initial findings, we can help you and we can get great results. But I want to make sure that with me agreeing to take you on as a patient, that we plan on doing another X-ray or another exam in 12 months from now to really make sure that we've captured the stability that you need in your spine. So yes, we're going to start out with this, but just know down the road, I have that earmarked already, knowing that in 12 months, we're going to need to do a new assessment. So that's kind of a mini report of findings concept. Let's take the care plan renewal concept, because if you're in a practice where you haven't been doing this and your patients aren't aware of this type of a care plan, then you could say, let's just use kind of an extreme example. Let's say patients have just been coming in as needed for pain, maybe once a month or once every 6 weeks or whatever, and you want them to sort of transition into something that's a little more predictable in terms of your schedule and your objective criteria. Well, you could have, when they come in for an adjustment, you could let them know, hey, there's specific findings here that I'm concerned about. And I'm going to go ahead and do these tests today. I'm going to take an X-ray, or I'm going to do this exam. And then when you come back for your next appointment, I'm going to explain the results. And hopefully everything's going good, but I have concerns about this area and I want to recheck this, and I'll go over those results with you at the next appointment. Well, that next appointment, and this isn't something, it doesn't matter that you're hiding it from a patient. You're not hiding it from the patient, but you don't have to disclose this, because that's what the point of the next appointment is to say, based on those new findings that I found and these results that I'm going over with you now, here's the care plan that I'm recommending for you. And this includes a follow-up X-ray in 12 months or a follow-up exam in 12 months. So we're looking at this more from a big picture standpoint. So you can very easily transition your patients from that sort of short-sighted pain relief model into a bigger picture model. And if they say, you know what, I've only been coming in when it hurts and I want to continue. You're adjusting me today. I'm sure I'll feel better tomorrow. I'll think about it. I'll call you back when I need you. Okay, that's fine. You're no worse off, because that's what they were doing before anyway. But you may as well plant the seed, because what you'll find is many patients appreciate what you're sharing with them and will say, yes, doctor, that sounds good. Let's go with that. So don't lose the opportunity or miss the opportunity to kind of switch over to a different model if you're in an older, or if you're in that sort of pain relief model. Okay, so with that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up. Any other questions? You can raise your hands. Otherwise, I'm going to jump off, and I don't see any hands up. Thank you for your time today. Thanks for being part of DC Trainings. I wish you all the best in practice, and you can take, of course, great care of your patients. I will talk to you next week. Stay tuned.
If you would like to become a member of DC Trainings, be sure to head on over to dctrainings.com to get started today.